Hey, what's up everybody? Hammerheart Metal Reviews here once again. Today we are going to be counting down the second half of my top 50 albums of 2024. We are into the top 25. If you missed the first half of my list that I released this past Monday, definitely go check that video out to see some great albums that I listed from number 50 down to number 26. And as much as I love those first 25 albums, the ones I'm going to talk about today, I love even more. This is the best of the best, in my opinion, my favorite releases that came out this year. Before we get into the list, I just want to once again say cheers to you all. Gonna have another beer while I make this video here. Drink along with me, join along, try to guess my picks. And at the end, definitely give me your lists down below. Let me know what your favorite picks from 2024 were, what your favorite albums were. Cheers. So yeah, let's just get right into this. No need for a big long spiel. Kicking it off today in 25th place. Going with some Canadian content with Spectral Wound and their new album Songs of Blood and Mire. So this is some black metal from Quebec. This is raw and vicious, yet it has a nice melodic edge to it as well. And this time around, they brought in this like anthemic vibe to it as well. This album is super catchy, and it even has some like shout along or sing along moments as well, with kind of these gang type choruses, whether it's them all yelling, "Drink deep," or "Join us." You're just going to be wanting to shout along with it, raging with their evil groove. This is just a worthy successor to their last couple of excellent albums. Do I like it as much as the last one? I don't know. Time will tell. But the last three albums by this band are top tier black metal from Canada. Don't skip it. Go give it a listen. A solid release from 2024. Up next in 24th place, switching up the genres completely, going with one of my favorite power metal albums of the year, and that is Thornbridge with their album Daydream Illusion. So speaking of infectious and melodic, this album is definitely that. Like I said, this is possibly my favorite like European power metal album of the year. I would say this is equal parts Orden Ogan and Blind Guardian, but they put their own spin on it. It's not just a copy of those styles. There's definitely some similarities. This is now 3 albums deep in their discography, and every single album has really hit the mark. They've all been great. This is the kind of power metal where you will be singing every single chorus, even after just listening to it a few times. It's just joyful and melodious. The melodies are going to stick in your head, and this is just German power metal done right. An excellent album. Up next in 23rd, switching up the genres again, going with Ulcerate and their new album Cutting the Throat of God. So a band that at this point probably needs no introduction, but if you are unfamiliar, they are from New Zealand, and this is a very avant-garde type of death metal, very heavy on the dissonance, very technical at the same time. Their unique style is pretty much perfected at this point in their career. You know what you're going to get, which is an awesome goddamn album. The drumming on this is so technical, and the way that it kind of like flows with these rhythms and the guitar, it just like the musicians just work so well off of each other. Like the way that the drums play off of the guitars, it was obviously just a match made in heaven when these musicians got together. They've perfected the atmosphere here. I will say I'd probably give the edge to the previous album if I have to compare. That's what we do as reviewers. We're always comparing to other albums. So yeah, Stare Into Death and Be Still, I probably liked a little bit more than this album, but this one's still pretty damn close. It's an excellent album. Definitely go listen to Ulcerate. All right, up next in 22nd, I'm going with Belore and their new album Eastern Tales. This is some epic atmospheric black metal from France. This band would be for fans of bands like Summoning or Caladan Brood and Canbard. So you kind of know what you're in store for when I mention those bands. It's in a similar vein. Once again, like I've mentioned with other bands, this is their third full length. And they keep on getting better each time. I feel like a broken record saying that about a lot of these bands, but like some of them just keep on improving album after album, and this is no exception here. The songwriting is really top notch here. For the style, this is just a top tier album. I absolutely love atmospheric epic black metal. It's one of my favorite subgenres of metal, and Belore is really rising as the cream of the crop, as they say, putting out just an enthralling album from start to finish. So if you're into any bands in the style, definitely go check this one out. Up next in 21st, I'm going with Ripped to Shreds and the new album Sanshi. So this is some old school death metal from the USA. This has got a nice grindy edge to it. It's super shreddy as well. I just absolutely love the approach and style that they've gone for on this album. A lot of parts really are reminiscent of a band like Exhumed, which is one of my favorite death metal bands. So anything that reminds me of Exhumed is going to be good in my books. They've got a really cool concept here where each song is kind of about a different death ritual. And this just absolutely shreds. The solos on this album are so technical and so killer. They bring in this nice sense of melody while still keeping it just blasting and grinding away. Like, I would easily say this is one of my favorite death metal albums of the year. Just full of hooks, full of great songs. Awesome, awesome stuff. Before we get into the top 20, I'm going to take another sip of beer, as I'm probably going to do about every 5 albums or so on this list. All right, cheers again. All right, we are into the top 20 now. It just keeps getting even better. Let's find out what is coming up. Drum roll, 20th place. We are going with Djevel and the new album Natt till End. So this is some Norwegian black metal, and when I say that, this is like old school style, throwback to those early 90s, mid 90s days. Black metal done the right way. This is just an absolute riff fest. Some of the best black metal riffs that you are going to hear all year. This band is just perfect at capturing that atmosphere and energy of early 90s black metal. It's haunting and sinister. And honestly, like, this band just doesn't miss. Their whole discography is just banger after banger. Just easily one of the best and most consistent, like, current black metal bands that's out there. And this album is no exception to that. Just a solid black metal release. Just cracked the top 20. Could be even higher, but yeah, a very good album. Up next in 19th, I'm going with Attic and their new album Return of the Witchfinder. This is some German traditional heavy metal. And when I say that, this is very heavy on the King Diamond and Merciful Fate influence for sure. The comparisons are undeniable, but they stand on their own here. Yes, you are going to compare the vocalist to King Diamond because he hits these great falsettos that not too many people can. There's not too many bands that can even sing like that, but he does a very good King Diamond imitation, but does his own thing with it as well. This isn't just a copycat act. Like I said, this music stands on its own. They bring in some different influences. There's even some black metal-esque moments with some blast beats and some tremolo riffing. The songwriting here is just really on point. It's a ton of fun, and overall, this album is so re-listenable. There's great songs on here, some of my favorites of the year. All in all, awesome goddamn album, Return of the Witchfinder by Attic. Up next in 18th, I'm going with Grylle and their new album, Égrotants, souffreteux, cacochymes, and covidards. Probably mispronouncing that, so I apologize. I do not speak French. This band is from France, and they play medieval black metal, medieval folk, a combination of that. It's super unique in that there are no electric guitars on this album. So you hear that, black metal without electric guitars. How does that make sense? Well, they still have bass and drums, but then all of the black metal style riffing is played on medieval instruments like lute and mandolin and psaltery, flutes, bagpipes, hurdy-gurdy. This features the vocalist from Vehemence, which is one of my favorite black metal bands in all of existence. So as soon as I see that, I'm interested because I like pretty much every project that he is involved in. And this one is so unique, and it just nails the medieval vibe and atmosphere perfectly. It's just, yeah, super unique. The vocals are different, they're strange, but it suits it, and it just transports you to medieval times. And I love the melodies here. They're going to stick in your head. Yes, I don't understand what they're singing because it's all in French, but that doesn't detract from my enjoyment of this album. It is goddamn great. Like I said, I love every project that Heaver Moore from Vehemence is in, and this one is no exception. Up next in 17th, I'm going with Oxygen Destroyer and a new album, Guardian of the Universe. So this is some US thrash metal with a nice dose of blackened death in there as well. And this one, the best way I can describe it is that it will just rip your face off. This is relentless speed, just non-stop thrashing with blast beats that's got that Black and Death edge. Like, think bands like Absu or Angel Corpse combined with the thrashiness of early Creator. So throw those together, and this is just relentlessly gonna beat you down. It's gonna melt your face off. It is goddamn amazing. So fast, riffs for days. I cannot emphasize how much this album just shreds, and it's just gonna make you headbang. It will put a smile on your face. In my opinion, easily the best thrash metal album of the year. Oxygen Destroyer. Go listen to it right now. Up next in 16th, I'm going with Kawir and the new album Κυδοιμός, which I'm probably mispronouncing once again, and I apologize. I do not know how to say anything. I do not speak Greek. This is some Greek pagan black metal. I will say this is my favorite Greek black metal band, which is really saying something because there are a ton of excellent Greek black metal bands, but to me, Kawir has always been my favorite. They just are a notch above at really bringing in the Greek mythology with their atmosphere and the folkiness of bringing in different instrumentation. The lyrics are, based all around Greek myths, and the atmosphere is just perfect. It really brings in the right blend of the pagan folkiness along with the super aggressive, raging black metal. This is just Hellenic glory at its finest. They brought in a new drummer on this album, and he is insanely good. The blast beats and double kicks on this album, insane. Like, the drumming here is worth the price of admission alone, but that's not to take away from the rest of the band, because this has got killer black metal riffs, super harsh vocals. It's just Greek black metal at its finest. Killer album. All right, once again, before I get into the next 5, I'm going to take another sip of beer, and I encourage you to do the same. Go grab a beer, chug it down, shotgun it, whatever. Let's have some fun. Let's go. All right. Now we're into the top 15. In 15th place, I am going with Savage Oath and their debut full-length album, Divine Battle. This is some traditional heavy metal from the USA. This is a super group of sorts. Features members of Visigoth, Manila Road, Pagan Altar, and Summerlands. So really very accomplished musicians, top-class musicians, I will say, putting out a top-tier album. The first 3 tracks on this album are absolutely killer. Maybe the back half, in my opinion, isn't as strong as the front, but I'm still putting this in my top 15, almost based on the strength of those first 3 songs alone. Wings of Vengeance, one of my favorite songs of the whole year. The vocals are great. The guitar is great. This is just everything that I want in like a US power metal, US traditional heavy metal album. It's goddamn great for a debut. I hope they put out some more material. But if you're unfamiliar with Savage Oath and anything I just said sounds like it might be up your alley, definitely go give it a listen. All right, up next in 14th, I'm going with Winter Filleth and the new album, The Imperious Horizon. So a band that should probably need no introduction, atmospheric black metal legends from the UK, been going at it for a long time, and they are just such a consistent band. Every single release is top-notch stuff for this specific subgenre. This is one of my favorite bands in the genre for a reason. This album is absolutely epic, and it is a triumph. Yes, you could say that it's predictable in its flow and style because most Winter Filleth albums sound somewhat similar, but each still has their unique characteristics, and I will say the execution here is pretty flawless. In the middle of this album, what I kind of consider the centerpiece of this album is the title track and then the follow-up, In Silent Grace. That 1-2 punch, absolutely amazing. Those 2 songs are some of the best material they have ever written. On In Silent Grace, it brings in the vocalist from Primordial, and that is a combo that I didn't know I needed in my life, was Winter Filleth playing with the guy from Primordial singing, but it is absolutely astounding, a killer, epic song. All in all, a solid goddamn album, Winter Filleth. All right, let's move this right along. Up next in 13th, going with Morgul Blade and their album Heavy Metal Wraiths. So this is some more US traditional heavy metal, but when I say that, it does bring in a little bit of a blackened touch as well. The vocals are more in a blackened, raspy kind of way, but the melodies and the riffs are very much just like traditional heavy metal. It's like, sounds like it's from the 80s, with those melodies, and it's just got that added charm of some raspy black metal vocals. This is one of my favorite album covers of the year too. Like, look at that album art. Absolutely amazing. And the material inside is possibly even better. This is a standout album for the year. Every time I hear him say, heavy metal fucking Wraiths, I just fucking smile. It's glorious. I absolutely love it. Go listen to Morgul Blade if you have not. All right, up next, gonna go with some Canadian content in 12th place with Liminal Shroud and their album Visions of Collapse. So this is some atmospheric black metal from BC up here in Canada. Once again, another album with some great album art. Like, check out that cover. Goddamn amazing. And this is another band that just keeps getting better with every single release. Their previous album, All Virtues Ablaze, which was from a couple years ago, that made my year-end list as I absolutely loved it. And honestly, this one's even better. This one, it just stands out. The songwriting is so engaging. It's complex. The drumming really stands out. It's absolutely magnificent. I love his approach here, trying some different things. And the riffs are awesome as well. Like, this is everything I want in a black metal album. Throws in some sprinkles of clean singing here and there, but it's mostly about the harsh vocals. I would say, if you're unfamiliar with this band, comparisons could be like a touch of Agalloch with the complexity of a band like Weakling, and mix those together, obviously with some different influence as well, and they do their own thing. But honestly, one of my favorite black metal releases of the year. I feel like it's going a little bit under the radar, so change that if you haven't listened to it. Go give Liminal Shroud some love. Goddamn amazing. Up next in 11th, sticking with Canada, but changing the genre, I'm going with Traveler and the new album Prequel to Madness. So when I say they're from Canada, most of the band is. I believe their vocalist is American, but still, I've always considered them a Canadian band. This is some just straight up traditional heavy metal, another throwback style band, but this one really stands out in a sea of like new wave of bands of traditional heavy metal. I really feel like Traveler has kind of made a name for themselves and stands out among the crowd. Their debut album from a few years back was absolutely amazing. It floored me. Their sophomore album, I did find a little bit disappointing. It's not like it was bad, but it didn't quite live up to the debut. But here on this third album, it's a great return to form, and it's possibly my favorite album by them, maybe surpassing the debut. It's very close, neck and neck. But yeah, the vocals wail and screech here. The guitar work absolutely shines. The solos shred. This is just traditional, modern heavy metal done the right way. Absolutely top tier stuff. I love this goddamn album. Just missed out on my top 10, but any given day it could easily be in there. I'm sure if you asked me to do this list again in a week, I would tinker with this order a little bit more. But for today, it's in 11th place. So before we get into my actual top 10, once again, I'm going to drink some more beer because all this talking just makes me a little bit thirsty, and I need to quench that thirst with some delicious beverage. Fuck yeah. Cheers, everyone, again. All right. It is time for the top 10. My favorites, the best of the best. This was very hard to narrow down. I mean, I've just talked about 40 albums between the other video and this one. And now these are the 10 that I think are even better than everything that I have already talked about. So let's find out what those are. In 10th place, I'm going with Bloody Valkyria and their debut album, Kingdom in Fire. So this is some epic, melodic, atmospheric black metal. This is a one-man band from Finland. And like I said, this is his debut, so great way to make a splash. This has 6 tracks, but it's really 3 lengthier, epic tracks that are all like over 10 minutes. And then 3 dungeon synth interludes, instrumental interludes. But the long epic tracks are really what this album is all about. The interludes are nice way to transition from one to the next, but wow, the long tracks, the songwriting is just amazing. It brings in, while I say it's like atmospheric, epic black metal, it kind of brings in some Finnish melodeath and power metal influences as well. So kind of think of a combo of like Summoning with Moonlight Sorcery and Children of Bodom kind of all thrown together, and that's kind of the vibe that this has. But the songs here are just, it takes you on a journey through Tolkien's world, and I just absolutely love it. Yeah, you can tell the drums are programmed. Maybe that's a slight detractor that they don't really stand out. But other than that, like, I strongly recommend this album. It's just a great listening experience. Up next in 9th, I'm going with Blood Incantation and the new album Absolute Elsewhere. So a band that should probably not need any introduction here. I mean, this album's getting a ton of hype, but deservedly so. This is some progressive death metal with a huge dose of psychedelic 70s prog in there as well from the USA, and this just takes you on a journey through space. This is just a very tripped out approach to songwriting, bringing in that 70s prog and ambient touches to their death metal. It's very unique. They're clearly unafraid to experiment or to go into any direction that they so choose. They don't care about what anyone thinks. They're going to play what they want to play and put together some songs that they want to listen to. And overall, I dig it a lot. Yes, it takes some chances. Maybe some succeed more than other. Some of the transitions could probably be a little bit smoother. That's my one kind of detractor to the album as a whole, is that I'd almost rather see these influences blended together a little bit more rather than playing one section that's raging death metal, then just abruptly stopping and going into some 70s prog. Like, maybe those transitions could work a little bit better, but I don't want to sound negative. I'm putting this in my top 10 because I love it. I'm just saying I don't necessarily think it's a 10 out of 10 masterpiece, but I like what they're going for. I love this album, been listening to it a lot. That's why it's in my top 10. Up next in 8th, I'm going with Dödsrit and the new album Nocturnal Will. This is some melodic black metal from Sweden. This is so triumphant and epic. The melodies here just will make you want to go find a sword and raise it high and run into battle. While I say that, it also brings in some crusty moments as well. The band's always kind of had that crusty edge to it. They bring in those injections of different styles with that punkiness just in spots. I wouldn't call this necessarily a crust album overall. It's way more focused on the melodic black metal for sure, but I like that they've got some different styles and influences going on. This just has this overall sorrow permeating throughout the album, but then it still just comes through with this glorious melodicism that feels so triumphant. The lead work here really shines. That's the highlight of this album for me. And I just fell in love with this when it was released. This came out way early in the year, but it still holds up. I've still been listening to it nonstop. A solid, solid album. Up next in 7th, I'm going with one of my favorite all-time bands, and that is Opeth with The Last Will and Testament. I'm sure you thought that was going to be higher than 7th, but hey, it's in 7th. That's still pretty goddamn good. So, a band that definitely needs no introduction, Swedish progressive death metal legends. And when I say progressive death metal, that actually fits these days. The last few albums would have dropped the death metal from their title, from their genre altogether. Their last ones have just been about progressive rock, folkiness, jazzy albums, which some of the stuff on those later albums I still enjoyed, but I would always kind of longed for a return to an album such as this. They have brought back the growls, they brought back a little bit of the death metal influence, but it still really retains the folkiness and jazziness of their later albums. It's almost a combination of the later era and the middle era, I would say. So yes, it works well. This is my favorite by them in quite some time, but I still can't put it up on a pedestal of going down as an all-time classic with their best material. I don't think it's quite on that level, but it's a really cool concept for an album. It tells the story well. It excites me to get this type of album from Opeth. The drumming is really interesting as well, bringing in this jazzy element to it, and it flows really nice. Maybe some of the songs don't stand out as much as others, but the way that the story plays from start to finish, it's a really well-crafted album, and I've been listening to the shit out of it since it came out. Really solid album. Love Opeth, and it's in 7th place as my 7th favorite album of this year. Up next in 6th, I'm going with my favorite Canadian album of the year, and that is Sigartyr with Citadel of Stars. So this is a one-man band. This is epic folk metal, epic black metal, kind of brings in some Viking influence as well. This is album 5 now for him, and I feel like he has now perfected his sound. Think elements of epic era Bathory, the more epic side of Immortal, and a band like Falkenbach, and that's kind of what you're in store for here. But when I say that, this guy is a way better guitar player than anyone in those bands. He brings in this neoclassical like stylings to his solos and even just to his riffs, and it just adds this different element that a lot of epic black metal bands wouldn't have, so it makes it a little bit unique. Another one with great album art, by the way, I should say that as well. This is just a ridiculously good album. I've been a fan of this project for a very long time, and this is possibly his crowning achievement. If you've never listened to this before and you want to go get a taste, go listen to the song I Sail on Eternal. It's so epic and just awesome. One of my favorite songs of the year. This easily could have been in my top 5, but it just missed out. But 6th place is not too shabby. So yeah, once again, I'm going to take a sip of beer, and then we're getting into the best of the best. My top 5 favorite albums from 2024. All right. In 5th place, before I get into that, I should say these top 5, this was ridiculously hard to rank. The order of these 5 could probably change on any given day, but this is what I'm going with for today. So in 5th place, I'm going with The Flight of Sleipnir and the new album Nature's Cadence. This is a hard band to describe. This is like atmospheric doom with some folky and black metal touches. They are from the USA. Brings in a very brings in a very Agalokian vibe, I will say. But they do their own thing here. They bring in some pedal steel guitar as well to really add a different flavor as well. It's just a really unique blend of influences. Like, yeah, overall, I would consider this a doom album, but it's like epic blackened folk doom. It's very hard to describe, but you just have to go take the journey of listening to this album yourself. They created quite the epic triumph of an album here. It takes you on this journey from start to finish, going some different directions, especially when they bring in that pedal steel guitar, but they don't overuse it. It's only in a couple of the tracks. It has great clean vocals, the rougher black metal-esque vocals, and the songwriting is just really on point. Like, I was really impressed with the way these songs were put together and the execution of this album, and easily one of my favorites of the year. That's why I've got it in my top 5. Up next in 4th, I am going with Triumpher and their album Spirit Invictus. So this is some Greek heavy metal, epic power metal, however you want to label it, is just epic and goddamn awesome. This is by far my favorite traditional heavy metal album of the year. When I say that, it's just so epic, but it also brings in this blackened edge to the guitar riffs as well. Like, a lot of these riffs wouldn't sound out of place on something like an Immortal album, but then the vocals sound like Eric Adams, very Manowar inspired for sure, but he's still unique and doing his own thing, and the uniqueness comes from the injection of that black metal influence as well. You don't often get that black metal influence with epic heavy metal, but he really pulls it off here. It's just got great catchy songs. Like, these choruses are so epic and you just want to sing along. Like the song Arrival of the Avenger, I bring power and total death. Piles of skulls, mountains of slain. Like, fuck, don't listen to me. Go listen to the goddamn song and sing along. Like, every song on here, you are going to be doing that. It is just triumphant and epic. Greek heavy metal at its best. I love this band. I love this album. Go check it out. It's in 4th place. Up next in 3rd, I am going with 7 Spires and the new album A Fortress Called Home. This is some symphonic metal from the USA. That's probably the best way to describe this band, is just simply calling them a symphonic metal band. But there's not really one way to describe this band, because they bring in so many different influences and so many different styles here. I absolutely love their approach, that their songs could change style from one to the next, yet still sound so cohesive. This album is so emotional. The lyrics sound like poems. It is just so well constructed. I mean, you're going to have the opening song is a gorgeous power metal duet with the guy from Twilight Force. And then it goes into a straight like Camelot-esque banger like Almost Town. Then you've got a death doom song like Impossible Tower. You've got a symphonic black metal song that reminds me of Demu, like Architect of Creation. You've got a folky ballad like Emerald Necklace. And then you've got the epic closer in The Old Hurt of Being Left Behind. It is just like, so many of my favorite songs from this year are on this album. I love their approach. Their musicianship is top notch. Like, everyone in the band is at the top of their game here. Adrienne Cowan, the vocalist. She does all the orchestrations, and the orchestrations are really what put these songs together. But I love her vocals as well, whether it be her powerful, clean vocals with tons of range, or her great, like, almost Shagrath-esque from Demu black metal style vocals. Like, she's got so much range and different styles and so much emotion in her vocals. Then the drumming on this album, departing drummer Chris Dovis, he is now in Testament, so you know obviously he can play, and he adds a whole other element to this album as well with his double kicks and his fills. Jack Costo is the guitar player's name. He has crazy neoclassical stylings on his solos, which really just add another element. There's one song on here, Love Souvenir, that's really like starts dark, jazzy, nice, soft, and subdued, and then all of a sudden it's going into blast beats and he's soloing over the blast beats. It's just super unique and great. And I don't want to forget about the bass player either. When he's given his moments to shine, he's super technical at playing as well. Like, all in all, these are top tier musicians putting out a top tier album. I absolutely love it. Could have even been higher than this. I almost put this as number 1. For today, it's in 3rd place, but yeah, I goddamn love it. That leaves 2 more albums. You know, I'm going to take another sip of beer. Usually I've only been doing it every 5 albums, but I'm talking a lot. My throat's getting dry. We got 2 more albums to go. Shit, I'm running out of beer. Gonna have to do these last 2 albums fast before I go refill. But, okay. Up next in 2nd, I am going with... in what my mind, wow, I can't even talk. What is in my mind at this point in my life is probably my favorite active black metal band out there. I got the back patch here, if you can see it. I'm talking about Horn with the new album Daudswiärk. This is pagan black metal from Germany, one-man band. Like I said, I would be very hard-pressed to find another active black metal band that I listen to more than I listen to Horn. This is just probably my favorite band, so maybe I'm biased putting this album this high, but I goddamn love every single album that he has released. This is now 10 albums deep, and they are all pure gold, and that's not even including like demos, compilations, EPs, but 10 actual full length, and every time he releases an album, it's coming close to the top of my year-end list because it's just that goddamn good. His like specific style of songwriting with his melodic riffing, it just suits this pagan black metal so well. His vocals, he's got a great harsh voice and he's got a great clean voice too. And he combines it together to just create this great atmosphere. The songwriting is just top notch. This time around, I will say he brought in less of a folky influence than on maybe his last few albums, but it's still there in spots. But this one's more of a straight-ahead, direct black metal album, and I love it for it. I loved the folkier albums, but I love this as well. You got songs like Pyres. That is one of the catchiest black metal songs I have heard all year. That would kill live. But my favorite song on the album is probably Antonius Führer, and Lickentag is also great as well. Just front to back, every song here hits the mark. I absolutely love this goddamn album. I absolutely love this goddamn band. I have every album by him. I will buy every album he ever releases because he's just one of my favorite musicians out there. Everything he touches turns to gold. This one is no exception. Easily my favorite black metal album of the year. So after all that, that was only in 2nd place. So what am I putting in 1st place? Like I said, anything in the top 5 could have taken this spot. These are kind of all rotated. But what I ended up going with for my favorite album of 2024 is Iotunn with the new album Kinship. So this is some progressive metal from Denmark. So if you would have told me at the beginning of the year that I would have a prog album in at number 1, I probably would have not believed you because prog's not usually my thing, but there are exceptions. And they do enough stuff here, bringing in some other subgenres. Like there's elements of mellow death here, there's elements of power metal. But yeah, overall, this is just like extreme progressive metal. It is just epic is the word I will describe this band by. I absolutely love the vocals here. I mean, this is a guy from Hamford, Barren Earth, and his clean vocals are the shining star of this album. The way it just carries the songs. His harsh vocals are not bad by any stretch either. I still dig those, but they only sprinkle in some harsh vocals here and there. There's not as much death metal vocals on this album as there was on their debut. It's much more focused on the cleans, but these songs on this album are so standout. This has some of my favorite tracks of the whole year. Like the musicianship on this whole album is insane. The solos are so good. The drumming is crazy good as well. bringing in an acoustic song for the first time, Iridescent Way, which is just beautiful. And this just whole album is so melancholic, but it's dynamic at the same time. It goes these different directions. Mistland, the song on here, is probably my song of the year by anyone. I just fucking love that. I love the chorus of it. I love the solo in it. But front to back, there's no duds here. This whole album is all killer, no filler for 70 straight minutes. It's just gloriously epic. And that's why it's my favorite album. In a year of great albums, this one does stand out. Killer stuff. That's why I have it number 1. So anyways, that is my list. I would love to get your picks down below. Let me know what you thought of mine. If you disagree, that's totally all good. These are just my opinions. I have a lot of fun making these videos, and I want to read what your picks are as well. Cheers once again. This is probably my last video for 2024. I'll be back in 2025. So yeah, if you want to follow along with what I'm doing, you can always go follow me on Instagram. I don't really do much on there. I just take pictures of albums I'm listening to that day. So if that kind of thing interests you, go check it out. If not, that's all good too. But once again, thank you all for watching throughout the year. Here's to 2024 and onwards to 2025. Oh yeah, Hammer Heart Metal reviews. Oh.